Want to kill someone? Hate will get the job done every time. But then again, the heart has many resources. And in a pinch, love is all you need. All along, this has been the big question. Why? Why would someone furtively enter an off-campus home just before dawn and armed with a hunting knife savagely murder 4 University of Idaho students? Since the grim events of November 13th, 2022, it has been a perplexity that has fueled considerable speculation. And now, a despairingly long 2.5 years later, with the trial of Bryan Kohberger, the 30-year-old criminal justice graduate student charged with the killings, poised to start in August, a potential motive is at last coming into focus. Try, for example, wrapping your head around the disturbing fact that the 2 survivors were aware a black mask intruder had entered their house, had heard the accompanying tumult, yet waited 8 hours before calling 911, rising at about 7:30 and then frittering away the morning on social media, taking photos and calling parents and friends. It is an explanation, a hypothesis really, that becomes credible only when examined through a different manner of cognition, the inscrutable workings of Bryan Kohberger's mind. At its root, it is a love story of a sort. Once upon a time, the yarn the state is hoping to spin begins. Bryan Kohberger was incomplete. Oh, he had laboriously strived to reinvent his life by the time he had enrolled in the master's program in criminal justice at DeSales University in Pennsylvania. He kicked his heroin addiction, lost more than 100 pounds, turned his body into a fortress through exercise, a vegan diet, and boxing, and made his way out of a dismal community college. And yet, something was still missing. Then he found his calling. Forensic psychology. The new science of exploring the dark caverns lurking in the recesses of criminal minds. And as luck would have it, he'd also found an unlikely friend and champion to guide him. Katherine Ramsland. A recognized authority in the psychological study of serial killers, a prolific author of, at recent count, 59 books, and a familiar face on the True Crime Network and cable shows, where she reliably brings a measure of academic gravitas to the proceedings. The professor had done it all. And, as Newsweek first revealed at the time of Kohberger's arrest, Ramsland was also his teacher. For a graduate class, she taught at DeSales. He'd read her seminal works, Inside the Minds of Serial Killers, Why They Kill, and Confession of a Serial Killer, the untold story of Dennis Rader, the BTK killer. Yet what the prosecution discovered, which has not been previously reported, is that Kohberger's relationship and tutelage with Ramsland did not end when he traveled across the country to enroll in the PhD criminal justice program at Washington State University. He remained her acolyte. Kohberger was allegedly emailing his professor in the days before the murders occurred and in the days immediately after. What was discussed remains, for now at least, another mystery. Neither the state nor Ramsland has responded to requests for comment. Nevertheless, Airmail has learned that just hours after Kohberger's arrest, Ramsland allegedly telephoned his mother to offer her wisdom and guidance to help her former student and his family through the looming ordeal. Her offer to act as the cool-headed broker for the Kohbergers was quickly accepted. The Kohbergers supposedly refused to meet with their son's court-appointed Pennsylvania attorney until Ramsland signed off. Over the 2 years that followed, the professor allegedly stayed in touch with the family, as well as Kohberger himself, offering sources share practical advice to help navigate the often overwhelming atrocities of a stern criminal justice apparatus. She's even reportedly conferred with one of Kohberger's sisters, who is said to be writing an insider's account of their wrenching family drama. In fact, the beleaguered family has asked her to consider accompanying them to the Boise bed and breakfast that Ann Taylor, the head of their son's defense team, has reserved for them during the course of the trial. From these facts, the prosecution has embroidered a still speculative account of what allegedly led Bryan Kohberger, armed with his 7-inch steel-bladed knife, into the house on King Road. Kohberger wanted to prove that the pupil was ready to become the teacher. He was determined to demonstrate to the professor, who according to this theory was the idolized object of his respect and affection, that he'd learned all her lessons well. And while her journey into hell had been judicious, reaching out in letters and interviews to convicted killers, he would charge full speed into the belly of the beast. No passive arm's-length academic posturing for this researcher, but even more, he'd kill and get away with it. He'd prove how smart he was. He would show how much he'd learned. And the hypothesis continued. With the raging, crackling anger that was unleashed, Kohberger would demonstrate to the object of his devotion the sacrifices he was prepared to make to win her comradeship. Like John Hinckley, who tried to assassinate Ronald Reagan to win the heart of actress Jodie Foster, a woman he'd never met. Kohberger was driven by his own twisted erotomania. Kohberger, too, would let his demons run free. In the end, he'd triumph. His far vision would take him someplace where his mentor had never dared to journey. And in the proud aftermath, after all his struggles, he'd at last be complete. What does Ramsland make of it? She's apparently not talking. She's never responded to my emails. Nevertheless, she might find something in the theory. After all, in another episode, in her remarkably accomplished life, she wrote her doctoral dissertation on Kierkegaard. It was that Danish philosopher who conceded that, quote, my writing should be considered a monument, end quote, to Regine Olsen, a woman with whom he had a brief, youthful relationship. Is it too far a stretch to consider that a killer's logic had made a similar heartfelt journey?